All right, guys. Been a while since I've hopped on here to do this one, but I've got an interesting week ahead for the most part. And hey, it starts with some sunshine. Pretty sure everybody can get on board with that. We've had several days of overcast conditions, and that's just not fun. Although we did get some rain that was beneficial, didn't certainly break the drought or anything like that, but it saturated our soils a little bit, so that's good. Temperatures are going to be seasonal to just below average to the north of I-20, really the northern half of the state, and then a bit warmer to the south. And the pattern looks pretty dry for the most part, but we do have an interesting setup overall that's going to provide some uncertainty. So here's the general current look at the upper levels, right? We've had troughing over the eastern half of the country, hence the cooler temperatures. And we've also had a streamline of moisture coming in from the Gulf, from the Western Gulf. That's actually a subtropical jet known as the Pineapple Express. That's been our moisture feed, and then we've been also seeing that merge with the polar air mass, which has made things quite cool and quite dreary here of late. So with that in mind, let's go to our upper level pattern here as we head towards the middle of the week. You're going to see another strong trough here. And what you're looking at on this upper level pattern, where you see the pinks, that is a really, really cold air mass. So what products you're seeing here is atmospheric heights. That's the color contours. The winds at about 500 millibars. So that's, just under 20,000 feet thereabouts. And the lower the atmosphere is, of course, where there's colder air. We don't get to 20,000 feet, but that means there's a colder air mass beneath there. Cold air is less dense, and you can use height values to determine where the coldest air is, and where it's orange, we have higher heights. And where are we in Alabama? Right in between here, midweek. So a couple fronts are going to move through here, primarily dry. You notice that troughing pattern continues through the end of the week with the coldest air staying well off to the north. And then we kind of level out here. So when you see a long wave trough like this, meaning not a sharp dip like a U, but more so a very gradual sloping arc, that's fairly zonal. Our winds are going to be westerly, not as warm as a southerly wind, but when you get a westerly wind, often temperatures will be slightly warmer. And notice where we're sourcing our air from. You see my cursor here. We're sourcing it from Texas, from Louisiana. It's a warmer air mass there, so if we have westerly winds, we're pulling in that relatively warmer air. The question becomes after this, how deep does this trough get? Really strong upper level low, okay? Just north of the Great Lakes, Lake Superior, the UP of Michigan. So if that gains momentum and shifts further south, that's going to push the jet stream further south. The going trend of models has it not coming as far south. In fact, here's where I got the jet on Sunday. The cold air well to the north. We stay in that relatively warm, albeit close to average temperature range. So there's no crazy anomalies for us right now. No extreme cold, no extreme warmth. That appears to stay well to the north, but as always, things are subject to change. So that was the upper levels. Let's go beneath now. Let's look at what's happening at the surface as a result. Remember, we've got that general troughing over the eastern half of the country. And what these frontal systems typically do is they're going to follow the overall track of that polar jet. That's really what steers these systems. And I'm going to zoom out here. This is Wednesday at 2. Okay, this low is swinging around the base of this trough and then off to the northeast. That right there is an occluded front. So this is going to be so far removed, the cold air outrunning the warm air, and any lift is going to be in the Appalachians. We're not going to have a ton of moisture. We don't have a lot of return flow from the Gulf, unlike the past week. So I don't expect much, if any, rain, maybe some clouds Wednesday as this front pushes through. So there you have it as far as that point. So let's go a little bit further here now towards the end of the week. So we're dry on Thursday, and then we see another approaching frontal boundary by Friday. This is at noon. Remember, models are not the answer key, but this makes sense. These lows, these synoptic systems, tracking around the base of that trough with the better rain chances to the north, the colder air to the north. This, though, might be our best chance of rain in the entire forecast. So I'm going to zoom this in now. This is at 6 o'clock. And again, this is another frontal boundary, but one that's going to have a little bit more to work with. There might be just enough moisture to get some rain. With that said, there's a lot of uncertainty about the weekend. Some models are bone dry, so it certainly bears watching. Any way you slice it, it's not going to be a ton of rain. By Sunday evening, it looks like we have strong, colder air advection, so northerly winds come back in. That could mean our temperatures are a good deal cooler. This is a look at our current soil moisture. If I like to show this, for perspective. When we have dry soils, like we did in much of October and really the first half of November, our temperature swings are much more drastic. There's a bit of a fire risk too. Even though that we're in that dry range to damp, this is so much better than we were. So certainly a good thing. And for the next 7 days, we're not going to have a ton of rain, and our drought may worsen. Obviously, the worst is down Houston, Geneva, Covington, Southern Henry, Southern Dale, Southern Coffee County, and then Marengo, Greene, and Hale off in west central Alabama. The lowest drought levels in the northern third of the state. So where's the rain going to be? As I just showed you, there's not much. And again, this is a look at the average. This changes daily. But this gives us an idea. We're probably not going to see much of rain. So that means the focus is going to be more so on temperatures. This is a look at Wednesday morning. 30s across much of central Alabama. Upper 30s to low 40s to the south, but it's going to be chilly pretty much statewide. Wednesday afternoon. Remember, as I'm toggling through this, where the jet stream was. I mean, it is right over the southeast. So coolest air is going to be in the north, warmer to the south. About a 10-degree difference Wednesday from north to south Alabama. You saw that front that comes through Wednesday at 2 o'clock. That's going to usher in a brief shot of cold air, probably back near the freezing mark. In fact, I've got Thursday morning right at 32 here in Birmingham, much of central Alabama. All the way down to the Wiregrass will be in the 30s. Thursday, that cooler air sticks around briefly. And remember that zonal flow I talked about on Friday? We're going to be a bit warmer by Friday afternoon. Look at this. I think we'll have 60s pretty much statewide. Partly cloudy skies, increasing clouds late. And then after this, there's just a lot of uncertainty. Look at what this model is showing here. 38 in Huntsville over the Shoals, Tennessee Valley. Near 60 in Covington County. Now, these are a bit extremes. These are going to, come down to some extent, but this shows how, marginal this can be with this gradient between warmer air to the south, colder air to the north, and that makes a pretty big difference, especially here. Look at Saturday's highs. Again, 73 in Monroeville, 55 in Huntsville. I don't think it'll be that drastic. I've seen it before. We see these odd setups where the jet can't get very far south. There's a strong enough high in the Gulf that sometimes it just deflects those troughs from getting down here, and we're stuck in sort of a mid-ground or a purgatory in central Alabama, cold to the north and warm to the south. So we'll have to wait and see. Assuming that front can push through late Sunday into early next week, we may have some good cold air advection and drop down. I will say our pattern across the southeast, no crazy anomalies. I mentioned it before. This tells a story over the next 10 days. Remember the jet stream I drew? The ridge was here. In fact, let's go back to that because I love talking this stuff. That's kind of our pattern. Ridging out west and troughing over the eastern half of the country, and that's no coincidence. That's exactly what happens. It's a dividing line between cold and warm air, relatively speaking. This is looking out 8 to 14 days through the 22nd of December, perhaps suggesting that temperatures lean slightly above. Again, nothing significant, and certainly it would be good to see some rain, but the overall rain amounts through this period are not exceptionally high, though we know that can change very quickly, especially in the winter season. So we will be keeping a very close eye on all of this here moving forward. Hopefully you all have had a good start to December. The dreary weather, several days of it, it's behind us now, but things are looking good. Sunshine will be back for much of the week. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week, holiday season, and we'll see you next time.